To understand Betty's problem, you just have to do the math. Begin with her Social Security check.
I get $9.28 from Social Security.
Subtract the $891 for her rent, which includes lights and water. Now subtract around $35 for her phone, leaving Betty with $2 spending money each month.
So far, I'm managing. I get $100 in food stamps, so that takes care of the food. We don't buy a lot, but it's enough for me.
Betty was getting by and proud of it.
I've never got evicted from an apartment, even when I was younger with children. I always paid what I needed to pay.
But then devastating news for someone scraping by. In the middle of her apartment lease, Betty was told her rent was going up $18 more to $909.
I wouldn't be able to have a telephone. That's the one thing I need, because I live by myself.
Betty went to the rent office to explain you can't raise the rent.
The owner's doing this. I said, but they can't do this because I have a lease. They can do whatever they want. They the owners. They can go up again next month if they want.
$18 a month. You might spend that on one meal. For Betty, it's the difference between a home and homeless.
I was calm with her because I don't like to controvert with people. And I don't use profanity. I'm too ladylike for that.
Inside, though, Betty was shaken. She had to be hospitalized, worried about surviving, but convinced her landlord is wrong.
That's a binding contract according to the law. So how are you going to give them a lease and then come on back and break your own lease?
Well, Howard, can a landlord raise the rent in the middle of a lease?
Under a normal lease, you absolutely cannot raise the rent during the lease. But Betty's landlord is part of a federal program that gives them a tax credit for keeping the rent at a restricted rate. In that program, the federal government puts a cap on the rent. In Betty's lease, there's a clause that says if the landlord is under the cap, they can raise the rent during the lease if they give 30 days notice.
The clause Howard mentioned in the 23-page lease is on page 2, paragraph 15, that reads, "The owner may increase the rent to the maximum allowable amount." For Betty's apartment, that would be $1,186. With the $18 increase, it's at $909. Still under the cap, meaning more rent increases could be coming for Betty.
Forgive me, but like I said, this is getting to me.
Betty never saw that clause in the lease.
And if I had read that, I wouldn't have signed it.
Betty struggled to get by before. That $18 hike in her rent has now made it almost impossible to survive.
And like I say, right now, the bottom is falling out of the barrel, so I don't have nothing to scrape. And I'm doing the best that I can with the little bit of money I do get. So, you know. But like I say, this is getting to me. I'm sorry about that.
Meeting people like Betty reminds you how hard it is for some people to make ends meet and how lucky most of us are to have enough to pay our bills. Now, we're not going to walk away from Betty. We're working on a thing or two and trying to find people to donate a few dollars to help her. If you can help, let us know. Housing a problem that's restricting you, ready to evict it from your life? Contact us. We'll be happy to donate our time and give you some peace of mind. With this, help me, Howard. I'm Patrick Frazier, 7 News. Good to see you, darling.
Good to see you, too.
In 7 days, South Floridians have made an enormous difference in Betty Crenshaw's life.
I just feel happy now. Happy because I know I'm going to make it now. Forgive me, but like I said, this is getting to me.
When you saw Betty last week, she did not think she was going to be able to make it.
And I'm doing the best that I can with the little bit of money I do get.
Betty was living on her $928 Social Security check. Subtract the $891 for her rent, which includes lights and water. Now subtract around $35 for her phone, leaving her with $2 spending money each month.
So far, I'm managing. I get $100 in food stamps, so that takes care of the food. We don't buy a lot, but it's enough for me.
Betty was getting by and proud of it.
I've never got evicted from an apartment, even when I was younger.
But then, in the middle of her lease, the landlord raised her rent by $18. $18 Betty did not have.
The bottom is falling out of the barrel, so I don't have nothing to scrape.
Sadly, we had to tell Betty that since she was living in federal housing, her landlord could not only raise her rent today, he could raise it next month as well. and she could go from having a home to homeless.
So
Then South Florida saw Betty on Help Me Howard.
I knew there were magnanimous people, but this many?
The emails and phone calls started pouring in right after her segment aired.
Like Miss Betty, I'm on a fixed income, but I have the extra $18 hike in her rent. I'm very touched by what is happening to her.
I don't have a lot, but if it's an $18 difference, I think I can afford that.
By the time our Help Me Howard producer Amber Rodriguez and I, and our photographer Johnny Yu answered each email and returned each call, we had been in touch with more than 600 people, all wanting to help Betty.
Now this one is for $200. I feel blessed to be able to help you.
There are some big checks.
Wow. I was brought to tears by your story aired in the Help Me Howard Channel 7 News.
But most were smaller. People also struggling to get by, happy to help the lady who needed $18 a month more to avoid losing her struggle to survive.
$36. Oh, and a note. Hope you never have to go through something like this again. This is another 36.
And what would you say to all those people who are giving you $20 from their Social Security check?
The most generous, caring, blessing thing that there is.
Not just money. People came by to give the woman who lived on $100 a month in food more groceries than she's seen in years. Her freezer is now full, and something she could never splurge on was brought over by another generous woman.
Laundry detergent, dish detergent, soap, paper towels.
Heavenly Father, we come before you.
Not only will Betty be helped, an organization who saw her on Help Me Howard wants to help her neighbors in the same situation.
We're going to bring in that much food here for this community, 100,000 pounds of food. You're going to bless a lot of people.
Oh, wee.
Betty had so little and now wants to do so much.
But if anybody, no matter who it is, ever need help, I'm there. I'm going to do what I can to help them because, see, I'm going to be remembering. When I needed it, they were there for me.
So proud, so humble.
I'm going to keep these little notes.
And now, thanks to hundreds of wonderful South Floridians, so grateful.
For all these people, I just really thank them. I bless them.
Stunning, just stunning. You're amazing, South Florida. Thank you. Stressed and lost the zest to fight? Need a helping hand? Find a home with us, because like many South Floridians, we have the heart to help. With this Help Me Howard, I'm Patrick Frazier, 7 News. At Help Me Howard, she doesn't need a last name anymore. We just say Betty.
I'm past cloud 9. Is there one higher than that? That's where I am.
Let me back up. When we first met Betty, the only cloud she thought about was that dark cloud hovering over her.
And I'm doing the best that I can with the little bit of money I do get. So, you know. But like I say, this is getting to me. I'm sorry about that.
Betty was about to be homeless because of some simple math. She lived on a $928 Social Security check. Subtract the $891 for her rent, which included lights and water. Now subtract around $35 for her phone, leaving her with $2 spending money each month.
So far, I'm managing. I get $100 in food stamps, so that takes care of the food. Don't buy a lot, but it's enough for me.
But then the landlord raised her rent $18 a month. $18 Betty did not have.
And like I say, right now, the bottom is falling out of the barrel, so I don't have nothing to scrape.
Just $18 a month would keep a roof over Betty's head. How's everything going? Our story aired, and oh my gosh, did South Floridians respond with hundreds of letters, emails, and phone calls offering to help Betty.
Like Miss Betty, I'm on a fixed income, but I have the extra $18 hike in her rent. I'm very touched by what is happening to her.
I don't have a lot, but if it's an $18 difference, I think I can afford that.
Thanks to the generous donations of Channel 7 viewers, Betty's cabinets were filled with food, her freezer stocked with meat, and then the money poured in. Nearly 700 people sent in cash and checks, small checks and big checks.
Wow. I was brought to tears by your story aired in the Help Me Howard Channel 7 News. I feel blessed to be able to help you.
4 months have passed, Betty is still shaking her head in disbelief.
All the people that helped me, if they still calling to check on me, I appreciate it. It makes me feel like, you know, there are people that care, and I love it. It makes you feel like you're on top of the world.
Betty is very frugal with the money given to her. She saved nearly every dollar and is moving out of her small apartment.
The good news is now I can be comfortable in the new place. It's bigger and it's cheaper.
Her new place has something Betty has always wanted, a second bedroom for her beloved books.
And I'm gonna have me a wall-to-wall bookshelf put in one of the rooms and put all my books up there.
A bigger place, a cheaper place for a woman who is overflowing with thanks for people like you who changed her life in an incredible way.
And then when this rent went up, oh my God, I thought I was gonna die because I didn't know what I was gonna do. But people came to my rescue. I be thanking God for all this help that I've gotten. I'm gonna remember what people did for me, and then I'm gonna do for them.
People have asked me how much money was donated to Betty. I don't know. I never asked her. But not having that $18 a month was going to leave Betty homeless until South Floridians stepped up. How thoughtful and generous of you, and hopefully you'll have a lot to be thankful for this Thanksgiving, just like Betty. The numbers not adding up as you try to solve a problem, looking for some generous assistance? Contact us. We'd be happy to donate our time. It's what we do. With this, help me, Howard and Patrick Frazier, 7 News.